Hello and welcome to Thomas Geiger Car. Today with the brand new McLaren Artura, the first plug-in hybrid in the supercar segment. At least that's what he wanted to be and what he would have been if he would have come in time. But since McLaren was suffering Corona as well, was suffering the chip shortage and realized that developing a brand new car from the scratch isn't that easy, they are a bit late and a bit behind schedule. And again, they're competing with Ferrari, because in Maranello there is also a plug-in hybrid in the making. But since the Ferrari is not on the road yet, and this car will hit the dealerships later that summer for a price of 230,000 euros roughly, it is still a brand new experience. And if you want to know how that feels, join me in my test drive and I'll tell you more about it here on Thomas Geiger Car. The car looks like every McLaren, slim, sleek, sporty and pretty small compared to the competition. But McLaren has integrated lots of technology this time. The carbon fiber chassis is brand new, the monocoque is brand new, and it has room for a 7 kWh battery in the back. For that reason, McLaren shrunk the petrol engine. It's not a V8 anymore, it is a V6 with 3 liters of displacement, but still pretty powerful. 585 horsepower coming from the twin turbocharged petrol engine in the back, and 95 horsepower are added by the electric motor, which is integrated in the also brand new 8-speed automatic gearbox, giving the car a total power of 680 PS, enough to compete with the fastest in the segment. McLaren has been serious about the weight of the car. Since the battery and the electric motor is adding some extra kilos, the Brits have saved every bit of weight they could. But nevertheless, the car is still very luxurious and still very comfortable. And for a super sports car, it is also pretty roomy. So I have enough space sitting in the vehicle, feeling really comfortable and using everything I need during the drive. The thing I like the most is the new infotainment system. The cluster instrument behind the steering wheel is pretty standard, but the center display, making use of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto by now, is really unique because it looks like a smartwatch, operated by this dial on the right, like the dial on your watch, and for sure with the touchscreen, giving you everything you need. And since there is a new software running, the McLaren is updatable over the air for the first time. So things you might miss now will come as an update in the near future. But hey, stop talking about space, technology. This car is about driving. And even if you can drive electrically in the city or on a small stint outside of the city, it is mainly about driving fun. You have lots of power, lots of response, and since the electric motor is filling in the torque when you're shifting and the petrol engine is lacking of torque, you have a seamless acceleration like you haven't had that before. It gives you really a feeling of being a race driver, and you experience speed levels that somehow are insane. I'm driving now with 130 kilometers per hour and it feels like going 50 in a Volkswagen Golf. If you push the throttle and the pedal to the floor, it's going up to 330 kilometers per hour. Even if the car looks pretty familiar, as all the McLarens do, it is brand new and new from the scratch. We have a new carbon fiber chassis that is stiffer and lighter than before. We have new body panels in aluminium and we have a fully new drivetrain. The petrol engine has shrunken from a V8 to a V6 with a very flat angle of 120 degrees, combined with 2 turbochargers giving you 585 horsepower alone. And since you can't have enough power, and since the car should run on EV power at least for a little bit, it also has a 95 PS electric motor installed in the automatic transmission, which is also new and now has 8 speeds. And it has no reverse gear, because for the reverse drive, the electric motor is just converted around and going backwards. So again, weight saving, space saving, another feature to make that car lighter and more efficient. It looks like a McLaren, it feels like a McLaren, and the second you're in the car, you're familiar with the vehicle, just until the moment you hit the start button, because then you absolutely hear nothing. The vehicle is quiet, and engaging it and going on is a very unusual thing. You hear some high frequencies of the electric motor, but when you were used to the loud roar, it is pretty exciting, strange, kind of disappointing to go on in total quietness. But it only takes the push of the throttle, the car accelerates, and the petrol engine kicks in an instant. And if you're not fast enough, just switch the button, go into comfort or into sports mode, and you'll hear the usual sound and you're back into the real world. The electric part of the Artura is not the most powerful, but it is very sufficient. The electric range is about 31 kilometers in WLTP and brings you at least through the city without emissions and without noise. And it lowers the consumption significantly. It is the most efficient McLaren ever, with an average consumption of 4.6 liters. And hey, if you go decent, you can reach a speed of 130 kilometers per hour on the EV drive only. But hey, who wants to go decent in a McLaren? So better push the throttle and accelerate from 0 to 100 in 3.0 seconds. And if you're brave enough and stay on the gas, you can reach a top speed of 330 kilometers per hour. As you're used to with a super sports car, there are lots of different drive modes. Yes, you have an EV mode to force the car to go electric only if you're soft enough at the throttle. You got a comfort mode that is also mainly to maximize your efficiency, to maximize the usage of the electric motor and to minimize your consumption. But you also have a sports mode where both of the motors are running all the time, the petrol engine in the back and the electric motor in the gearbox. And you have the track mode. And you can't only adjust the powertrain, you can also adjust the handling, changing the steering and changing the response of the bumper, dampers and springs, making the car stiffer, making the car harder, or giving you a pretty smooth ride on a country road like that. You might drive an electric vehicle, at least part-time, but moments like that, when you hit the throttle and hear the roar of the engines, are really joyful, because they show you it is still a petrol car, it is still a passionate car that delivers lots of fun and lots of emotions. Thank you for joining me on that first drive with the McLaren Artura, a sports car that somehow tries to combine the best of both worlds, the old petrol world and the new electric world. Taking every single side of it, it is just a very good average sports car. Lots of power on the petrol side, but there are more powerful petrol sports cars. Lots of power on the hybrid side, but there are more powerful electric plug-in hybrid vehicles with bigger range, more power, higher top speed in the EV mode. But since this combination in this segment is pretty unique, it gives you really the best of both worlds. You can drive electrically through the city, leave your neighbors in peace, and you can have lots of fun on the road and even on the track, making this car the way to go for, as long as you still want some emotions and less emissions than before.